It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
All right, Rich Casanova here for another exciting episode of the Buckhead Business Show, being brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association. You can find all their information and join the team, as they say, at the BBA for just go to buckhead-business.org. And we have a great show lined up here in our beautiful PBC studios, the overlooking our $1 million view of Buckhead. Speaking of Buckhead, we get $1.50, I think, Craig, for every time we say Buckhead during the Buckhead Business Association show.
Buckhead's better.
Yeah, it's better in Buckhead, yeah. All right, so there you go. We each got our $5 in. All right, so Craig's joining us here in the studio as usual. A pleasure to have you here as a co-host for the BBA.
Pleasure to be here.
So before we get into our guest, which we're very excited to introduce, Dan-Jourdan, the man, the myth, the legend, the iconic,
the sales energizer,
right?
You got that right.
That he is
going to be you're going to be joining us. So tell us about the BBA. They do what, breakfast events?
Breakfast every Thursday. Outside of on the third Thursday, they have a after hours event for the young bucks.
Typically host for the young bucks, but even the old bucks are invited to that one as well.
Yes,
right?
Yes, they are. Mix up the bucks there. Yeah.
All right, so stay tuned for more information about the BBA. Let's kind of jump right into our guest joining us in the studio. Dan-Jourdan, welcome to the Buckhead Business Show.
Well, thank you very much. Jumping right into
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, you're the man to jump in, dude.
Well, let me tell you right off the bat, the BBA dominates.
Right.
Everybody needs to get. It's probably the best thing you could do for your career is just join these people because you got to get all in. If you're going to do anything, you got to. It's like the PBC here.
Right. Yeah.
Same thing. You're all in. Here's one thing you need to remember from the sales energizer. Remember this.
Most of it.
Half effort doesn't produce half results.
It sure doesn't.
Half effort produces no results. So if you're not all in, you're not in at all.
I love it.
And it reminds me of a line.
Tweet that.
Yeah.
Need to tweet that.
We're on that, yeah.
Yeah, you better
about
write that one down.
Your phrase about rising to the level of mediocrity. Right, that's a great...
yeah, that's what happens. You will get to that level. You will rise to the level of mediocrity and not go any further. But the good news is that's what most people do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, if you want to succeed in business, succeed in sales, succeed in anything you're doing in your life, you have to do that thing that you're trying to do well when other people aren't doing it.
Yeah.
You got to reduce your competition. And the good news is most of your competition is mediocre. Here's another one. Here's another one you might want to
All right,
tweet
write
out.
this
Ready?
one down, people,
All right?
yeah.
Listen, salespeople don't work on Mondays and Fridays and when it rains. Don't ask me why, but they don't work on Mondays and Fridays and when it rains. You know when I work hardest?
Mondays
and Fridays
and
during a
when it rains.
It's going to
snowstorm.
rain
Yeah.
tonight.
I got no competition.
There you go.
And that's the whole thing. So if it's a rainy Monday, I'm about
You're
to
killing
blow.
it.
Oh, forget about it. You
Yes.
can't.
That's the holy grail for you,
Oh,
yeah.
my gosh.
I almost hate to disrupt this energy and these words of wisdom. Can we rewind for just a second? For those on the planet, because we're live streaming around the world to every continent, those that don't know our buddy Dan-Jourdan, tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Oh, I have no backstory. Here's the backstory. I graduated high school, and my dad told me, he says, Danny, a little French guy, right? Recently died. We're not going to talk about it.
All right.
So my dad, he says, Danny, what are you going to do with your life? And so I said I was going to get a job. And he says, that's good. Go ahead and get a job. He goes, remember this. He says, you get a job, you got one customer, and he's called a boss. And if he gets a wild hair up his rear end for whatever reason, or your company merges, or something happens, you get fired, you got nothing. But instead, Denny, if you, instead of looking for a job, look for ways to get income.
There you go.
Right.
And what happens is you'll have 100 bosses, but they're called customers. And if one of them fires you, who cares? You got 99 more.
There you go.
And so I've been self-employed since I was 18.
Wow.
And in all the business, I had a butcher shop. I turned it into a deli. We did a lot of catering. I sold that, and I had a restaurant supply business in Manhattan, and we sold that. And then I met a girl and moved to Atlanta, and
You sold that?
I was going to, don't go there. Yeah.
let me tell you, that was my
power
biggest
of
sale.
three, yeah.
I tell you, I asked that girl, I moved here. I moved here to Atlanta without anything. I met her at a party. I went back home 2 weeks later. I moved here. Asked the girl to go out with me. She says no. And I say,
Was it rainy or is it a Monday or Friday?
yeah, well, I don't know what it was. Atlanta. It never rains in Atlanta.
Right, yeah.
So next week, I asked her out again. She said no. 6 months.
Wow.
Said no. Finally, she agreed to go to a Met game, Brave game, whatever.
Right, yeah. Be careful there, yeah.
And, we just had our 20th wedding anniversary.
Wow, that's
Congratulations.
amazing.
That's my biggest sale of all times. But look at that, the applause.
For your
That's something
20th,
to clap
congratulations,
about,
it is,
buddy.
yeah.
That's something to
You know, it was funny. It was actually just last week we had our anniversary, and we were talking in the morning. We had a good morning. We didn't bring up anything, and said goodbye to the kids. Went off to work. I get a text from my sister, and she texted both of us, and she says, "Happy anniversary." And we had no idea. We completely forgot.
Wow.
And so she called me, and
You're so busy being.
That's it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And then I had several other businesses when I moved here, and I became a stockbroker. And then I had a pest control business, lawn care business, truck rental business, business brokerage business. Now we have but in all those roles, I was the sales guy.
Yeah.
I'm really good at building businesses. I'm a terrible manager, just terrible. But I could build a business. I could sell. And so now my latest company is I have a recruiting firm, and we recruit what?
Salespeople, yeah.
Salespeople, that's it.
what it says on your website, yeah.
That's it. So all we do is recruit salespeople. So if you have a company that needs salespeople, or if you yourself are a salespeople and you need a company, you got to call
Remedy
the
of Atlanta.
Yeah, where would they go? Yeah. Give out the plug for the website real quick.
Well, you can go remedystaffing.atlanta.com. Or I do some sales coaching, and a lot of that comes from there, and that you just go to my regular website, which is dan-jourdan.com. But Jordan is very fancy. Jourdan.
That's French.
Ah, yes, c'est
It's
français. Hein? Je m'appelle Daniel Jourdan, le fils de Paris.
Comment allez-vous?
You should be on International Business Radio we host here as well. Yeah, we'll make that happen, yeah.
I have a very good accent, but I know about 6 words.
He'd say back
That'd
and
be a
forth.
very short show, but yeah. And now, 6 words with Dan Jourdan. There's the title of the show right there.
In French and
Bonjour.
English. Bonjour.
So let's talk your current operation with staffing and recruiting. What's a day look like for you, or what's a good day look like for you over there?
Well, a good day is always when you're closing. That's a
Nice,
good
yeah,
day. Good days when you're making building relationships. Today, for instance, I have 4 meetings, 2 with clients, 2 with prospective candidates that are looking for work.
That could be done right here, buddy.
That could be done
you
right
could
here.
do that
We'll
right
make that happen,
here.
yeah.
We could make that
But
happen.
you have 5 meetings
You mean
today
right
because you're
here
meeting with
in
us,
the-
right?
And
Yeah.
capture the conversation and give that content to them.
You know what? That's a great idea.
That's what we do
and
here.
really, that's one of the part of my marketing plan has always been, but especially for this year that I've reaffirmed my goals, is just to go on coffee visits with 2 or 3 people a week and just sit down and coffee and talk about them or what have you. And what happens is you don't talk about business, but
Right.
every single time you get business from it.
That's
so
it.
this is a casual little conversation
yeah.
in the $1 million view of Buckhead here.
And we'd love to have
the
them.
multi-million-dollar studios of PBC.
You could have 4 people here.
And then ideas like that just arise. It's just you got to always be in motion. That's what I don't understand. Salespeople will sit in their office and dwell on the fact that people aren't calling in and not knowing what to do.
And call all kinds of widgets and spinning in their head, right?
Yeah, you know what you need to do? Talk to more people.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
it. There's the number one. So write that one. Tweet that one out.
Tweet
you
that
gotta
one.
talk to more people.
And I was watching earlier on your site your message about folks that were at an event. Correct me if I'm wrong, or
You're wrong.
acknowledge me if I'm right. Well, you let me finish my sentence. Right?
Okay, I'll acknowledge you.
Thank you. I got on Super Tuesday we got 1 vote for yes and 1 for no. Yeah, so I'm right back where I started. Meanwhile, so the point was you're talking to folks interviewing process, because it's in your wheelhouse right now in terms of staffing, recruiting, and interviewing. How many people have had 10 interviews? And that's really their goal, right? Is just to get the interview.
Yeah, people think their goal is to get the job.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
We have that. If you're listening and Dan is going up and down on the chair, we have remote control on that chair, Dan.
Yeah.
Crazy
We're
chair.
keeping them on the edge.
Yeah.
But really, you can only do one thing at a time. So the first thing to do is the first thing on your list. So you can't get the job before you have the interview, and
Yeah.
you can't make the interview before you prospect for that interview. So your goal is to talk to enough people to get the interview.
Yeah.
Don't look past that. You look past that, and you wind up sitting in your chair waiting for the phone to ring, sucking your thumb, and wondering why you're not earning any money.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I actually see the possibility of having not only prospects but clients in the same conversation, because prospects will feel left out that they're not your client after they hear the feedback from your client and the story of so.
Well, see, a salesperson, a good salesperson, is a microcosm of a business.
Most definitely.
So, like every business, Tony Robbins says this probably better, so I'll just copy from him.
Sure,
he
yeah.
says, if you're not growing, you're shrinking.
Yeah.
If you're not climbing, you're sliding. There's no in between.
There's no in between.
You can
Yeah.
never get to the point, we're all set.
Yeah.
Arrived.
And so that's a business is always, because the market's always changing, and
The journey
environment-
is the destination.
Absolutely. So it's the same thing for the individual salesperson. Now, if you can get an individual salesperson who considers himself self-employed, that knows you always have to be growing and working on myself and personal development, and that person combines with a company that has the same values and the same growth aspects that they want to do, together,
Game
there's
over.
It's explosion.
Right, yeah.
I feel sorry for their competition.
Where do people get to hear your message? I mean,
Well, you can go to the website. I do and please hook me up. I have a newsletter that goes out once a week. It's just a tip of the week. There's no selling going
Gotcha.
on, and it's just a little tip of the week, a little inspiring.
that'll be on our show notes, definitely.
Will it? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll put
little
that on there.
video that goes out, and so for the 8 people that are listening, it'll go out there.
Are you kidding me? 8?
Let's talk about sales forces, right? So what's your perspective on hiring the right sales force and maintaining those folks?
Well, it's the whole thing is you want to hire slowly and
Fire fast.
and fire quickly.
Okay.
And because you're never like, oh, I wish I waited before I fired that person. That never happens. You always want to you're always like, can you believe they did that? So yeah, you want to hire slowly and hire slowly. What I do is, all right, this is what
describe that.
This is my secret.
Please tell us.
Okay,
All right.
yeah.
It's
Please.
like,
Let me
you
turn
know
the
what?
mic on. Let me turn the recorder on now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want. You know how people are always doing sales training and they're teaching you, like, say this word instead of that one.
right, yeah.
That's garbage. This is what you need. You need character training. You need personal development training.
I agree.
I like that.
Better people make better salespeople.
There you go.
And you could have a killer salesperson, but with bad character, something's going to happen in his life, something's going to happen in the market, and they go from 100 to 0 in about 2.5 seconds.
Happens every day.
Wow.
So you want to get somebody. So what I do is I make sure that the clients or the candidates that I present to clients are committed to personal development, and get this, hold on, I make them pay for it. Because if they don't pay for it, they won't do it. A lot of times these companies will send them, to a convention or sell them to a seminar, and you learn this, and they're out there getting drunk and finding hookers.
Right.
And now I'm thinking,
You mean fishing?
I'm
He's from New York.
Yeah.
We get it.
But the point is, if they don't pay for it, they don't use it. Conversely, you get somebody that's committed to their own career, to their own lifestyle.
Skin in the game.
And skin in the game to do that, forget about it.
Yeah.
That is your employee. That person, when things go bad, they think of themselves, they'll figure out ways to make it better.
Yeah. They take on ownership.
If they're not invested, they're divesting themselves, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like that one, write that one down.
Tweet
that's
that.
a good
I just
one.
thought of that one, yeah.
You tweet that.
And the thing is, so they're much more, they'll do much better in their lives, A, and B, they're much more attractive for an employer.
Right, right.
I mean, if you had the choice between hire somebody who is invested in their own and paying their own money,
Right.
or someone who's just saying, I promise you I'm really good.
Yeah.
Who are you
And
gonna
just show up.
Yeah.
And then don't go to work.
Yeah.
So what are some other, what's on the other short list of candidates, yeah,
Well,
during this slow hire process?
oh, okay. You want to make sure they're invested. You want to make sure they know their product. I always
Well,
look.
back up on product, because that's a yin and yang, right? People say it's all about product knowledge. If you study and research it, know your product inside and out, you can sell it, yes or no, or are you all in on that philosophy?
Let me tell you a story.
All right. We love stories.
Okay. What you need to do is provide the employer what they want most. And so what they want most are more customers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to get in, here's the secret to getting a job, of any kind of sales job. I had a company I was doing business with in staffing. I was staffing light industrial employees. I don't do it anymore, but I was doing it then. And I went to this company, and they had maybe 50 people that were working, and they were working with this other company for 20 years, and I was going there every week, bringing cookies. Hello, here I am. And so finally the guy tells me, he said, hey, Deej. They call me Deej. Hey, Deej, listen, you're a good guy. But you're real, you're not overwhelmingly, you do the same thing as the company. We've been working them for 20 years. There's really no reason for us to switch. So I say to them, I said, well, who's your biggest customer? And they are recycling plants. So they're basically separating plastic from paper, going down this line. And they said, well, we do a lot of work with printers. So I said, fine. So I went home, and that week I cold called a bunch of printers as if I worked there.
There you go.
And I
You
said,
took ownership.
yeah. And so the next time I go to see them, instead of the card and cookies, which I brought all the time, always bring cookies. You know,
Okay.
if you attach your card to cookies, everybody wants your card.
That's it.
If you don't attach your card to cookies, nobody wants your card. Attach your card to cookies.
I love that.
So,
We're getting cookies next week, yeah.
so where was it? So the next time I went back there, I brought them 5 leads, 3 of which turned out to be customers, and I got the business.
Wow.
So you want
Results.
what you're in sales, what your customer is buying is not your services or your product, but the outcome of the benefit of the service and the products that you provide.
And they're watching you when you're not even working for them, right? That persistence that you just illustrated.
Yeah, you
right?
go on you're giving them what they want, and you're doing the extra effort. And the point is, for a salesperson on an interview, that's a true sales call.
Okay.
You know, and so you treat it that way.
We want to come to the, I want to get some pointers from you and have you share a story or some insight on the interview process, the do's and don'ts. Before we do that, we just want to remind our listeners, you're listening to the Pro Business Channel studios here in Buckhead. And for the Buckhead Business Association, that's buckhead-business-show.org is a sponsor and host for this episode and this show, so definitely check those folks out. They're doing amazing work. They're 62-year history here in Buckhead, and just phenomenal. We're excited to be a media partner with them as well. The first ever in 62-year history of the BBA, so we're thrilled about that. So
Audible Voice.
The Audible Voice Buckhead. They have a lot of other media partners, obviously, print media, but this is a very unique platform for them. So having said that, let's jump back in. We're visiting with Dan-Jourdan on this episode of the BBA show. And Dan, before we jump into your enthusiasm and excitement, let folks know one more time what's the best way to reach out, give both sites, if you would.
Well, you can, for the staffing side, you can go to remedystaffingatlanta.com and check us out there. And then for coaching and sales ideas and tips and tricks, you go to my website, which is dan-jourdan.com, and Jourdan is Jourdan.
All right, so maybe you have another topic on your mind. If not, I want to jump into that interview, kind of do's and don'ts.
Absolutely. By the way, you know, the Buckhead Business Association absolutely needs me as a speaker.
We'll make that happen.
Are
Yeah,
you crazy?
Yeah.
I cannot believe I have not done that yet.
Well, we can talk to the powers that be. They do their breakfast every Thursday morning right here at the City Club in Buckhead.
7:30.
At 7:30 in the morning.
But do they allow really good-looking guys? Because that's the issue.
Well, we'll see. Yeah,
I think we'll be able to swing something.
We'll
on
slide
that.
you in the side door. They won't even notice. Whatever. Yeah. This guy's always selling, right? There he is. He just invited himself to be a speaker.
No, I was just offering an opportunity for you to
absolutely.
prove that you not only are the audible voice, but you're able to supply them with top-notch speakers for their meetings.
And how cool is this? They're listening live as they're streaming. They can listen to the podcast, the reposting, and have all your information. And rather than just a phone call or a resume or an email, they can hear you.
They get to experience you right now.
You know,
you're interviewing for that spot.
We
right
forgot
now.
to tell you that this is your interview for your speaking engagement at the
It just
BBA.
keeps getting better.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So is there another topic that's on your short list or comes to mind?
Well, we talked about how a salesperson can really outshine on the interview. The first thing, I was taught this. I do a fair amount of speaking. I travel about and do that. And I was mentored by a guy who said something amazing. He said, "Listen," he said, "Deej, you could say nothing of value. I mean, absolutely nothing. But say it with enthusiasm,
Yeah.
and they'll think you're a genius."
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing on an interview. If people go there all, oh my God, here I am. You wouldn't believe the traffic when I came in.
Yeah.
Well, come on now.
Yeah.
You know, you have about 2 seconds to make that good first impression.
Preempt them.
Listen, in sales, here's another little secret. I keep lowering my voice when I'm telling you a secret.
That's what Rich does.
Yeah.
He does it all the time.
People will buy for 3 reasons. They buy because they like you. They buy because they trust you. And, well, by the way, which one do you think is more important, like or trust?
Like?
You think like?
Right, yeah.
What do you think?
Trust.
Well,
I
they
would
have
say.
to like
Trust.
you first
Yeah, I would
before
trust.
they.
I think trust. I think trust is, and people they sense what trust is when they see it. Sometimes they have the premonition of what trust looks like.
I would absolutely concur, but I think you have to have the likability first before they.
You don't have to be liked to be trusted.
But I can trust you. But if I don't want to, if I'm just not feeling you, I don't want to.
I asked this question a million times, and whenever I give presentations in big groups, and I say after I ask that, I ask the second question, but only of the women.
Gotcha.
And I say, how many of you women have ever gone out on a second date, not a first date, a second date with a guy that you didn't like at all, but you trusted him?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
it's like.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why Facebook has likes and not trust.
But now, sometimes you can have the like before the first meeting. They could like you online, or they could like you because it's something you've written or wrote, or something they heard on the radio, have you. And so then your next step is to build up that trust. So they like you, they trust you,
and they know you.
Then they believe you, and they believe you can do the work.
Yeah.
That belief, and that's where
confidence. Yeah,
that's where the proof comes in. That's where referrals and all that stuff comes in. But if you have those three things, the sale is kind of already made, and you're just waiting for a want or a need, and then you're in.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that happens, the kind of glue that holds it all together, once they like you, they trust you, and they believe you do the work, they will have a desire to do business with you. It becomes a larger risk not to do business with you than to do business with you.
Most definitely.
So when you find that perfect guy who's going to repair your car, man, I don't. All I want to know is that it's going to get done, and
That's
you're not going to rip me off. So I'm going to drop it off, and I'll see you later, potato, and I'm done. It would be a risk for me to try somebody new. I like this guy. I trust him. Let's just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing when you're on an interview. You first go there, you got to get them to like you first. And so, a lot of more small talk is more important than the actual meat of it.
So being likable, I mean,
actually,
yeah, I see.
Be likable.
I noticed that you're in the staffing and recruiting business. Talk to us about recruiting. What are some challenges or in the recruiting process?
Well, the challenge is that most people are terrible interviewers. Because, if you think about how many jobs have you had in your life,
right.
You've only really been in that position. A lot of people once or twice, and maybe the last time you were interviewing was 20 years ago. So you're really lousy at it. Not because you're a lousy person.
Just not practicing.
You just haven't done it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what I tell people is to go on interviews for jobs you don't want.
Right.
Just for the idea. Now, most people don't do it because, what if Papa John's doesn't want to hire you? It'll kill your morale.
Right.
But you'll do a lot better. And I've had real success with people if they followed my program.
So how many interviews would you suggest? You do that once a week, once a month?
Well, I have a program that I do. I have people invest in themselves. It's at $250 a month. They get coaching and some online stuff. And until they get a job, and then it's $50 a month after that. But I do that and I'll guarantee them they get this job. But in that program, when I'm telling these people what you need to do, I'm telling you go on 5 interviews this week.
Gotcha. So 5 a week.
Yeah, and then we're going to review it.
Real good.
And we're going to review it and see what you did loud. Because listen, for crying out loud, they only ask you 4 questions. You know what they are. Why do you want the job? How long have you lived here?
What have you done in the past?
What have you done in the past? What's your greatest thing?
Where are you going to be in 5 years? Yeah.
Right. That's a lousy question.
You hit on something that I had this epiphany about this concept of the interviewing process is most folks you don't do that on a regular basis, and yet you do your job. You can have an amazing skill set, be world-class at something, but when you sit across the table from the person, it doesn't come across.
Right.
I mean, that's
why everybody needs sales skills.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has to sell something, so they do need the sales skills. I mean, you're always selling something.
In every conversation, a transaction is taking place.
Most definitely.
Someone's buying, somebody's selling. You could think in your head right now, you could be thinking this guy is a load of horse manure. But I don't know it because you're not in your head. So
yeah, there you go.
But it reminds me of an interview heard with Garth Brooks one time. And if you think about him, he says it himself. He, by far, is not talented as a singer. He doesn't have the chops that other people have. But he's worked harder, and he's done more of it than guys with more talent. Mm-hmm. Right?
That's a great quote. I love that.
Yeah. So we have just a couple minutes before we wrap up the show. What's next for dan-jourdan. How do you say that in French?
Jourdan?
Jourdan?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
what's next?
the name is my sister's name is Juliette Natasha Jours. It's
Oh,
beautiful. Isn't that
man.
nice?
Let's just pause for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you married a guy, and now her name is Julie Klug. And so I was dan-jourdan, but I moved to Atlanta, and so now I'm dan-jourdan.
Dan-jourdan. Yeah, so, I mean, any speaking engagements coming up? Or
We have something actually April 1st here. It's for small business people and entrepreneurs. Actually, a good thing is the better build your best business hack. And I'll get you the information. A friend of mine's putting together, but I'll be keynoting over there, and there's a bunch of other business speakers there. It would actually be a good event we could probably promote on this station as
Absolutely.
well. And I have some other corporate events that I'm doing, but nothing really here in town. I do have some charitable work that I do for various Career Quest ministries. A lot of these churches, they will help people in transition, they call it, that are looking for jobs. And say to Roswell United Methodist Church, I do something every other Monday.
That's one of the longest standing ones, right?
Yeah, they have a big room there in the evening, and there'll be about 300 people there. It's crazy. But all throughout the day, there's tons of other people. It's been very helpful.
Yeah, I sent my brother over there one time. He was scouting some new opportunities, and it's almost like for a full day event. You can kind of plug and play whatever schedule, or because they have coaching there and a whole range of services, right?
It's very good. The challenge is you can get lost in there and think that your career, because ultimately you're networking with a bunch of people that can't get you jobs. There are other people that are looking for jobs there. But one of the things I tell people, listen, you want to work at the place, you have an idea of where the place you want to work, go there, for crying out loud. Yeah. Stop there, go into the place, ask to speak to a salesperson. Any salesperson will sell their soul. Will sell their soul, tell you everything about the company for the price of a $5 footlong. You just go in there, can I speak to they'll come running out.
It's all about food. There's some
this seat
it works.
Yeah.
All right, so any last nuggets for those folks out there that are maybe, let's talk about somebody starting a business, Pro Business Channel, right? Mm-hmm. So you obviously have bought and sold a number of these ventures. So what's some takeaways, some thoughts of in launching a new business?
Launching a new business. Yeah. There's a lot of things now you can do to start your business. There's the website, there's the email marketing campaigns, there's all these fancy things, there's graphics and all the tools that you have to get. And never lose sight of this. All those things mean nothing if you don't have a customer. Mm-hmm. If you could just focus on, before I do anything else, I'm going to get this amount of customers.
Right.
You are much better off. I've started a couple of businesses with nothing but a customer.
Right. So put your sales hat back on for a moment. Mm-hmm. So in this launching of a new business for folks, at what juncture do they bring on salespeople, or does the founders, is it their role because they're passionate? Should they be in the primary sales role and then back off at some point? Kind of what's the methodology there?
Well, there's three parts to any business that you all know, and it's the sales and marketing, it's the administration, and then there's the production. Right. And generally in a new business, a startup, you're doing them all.
Right, yeah.
Which means you're doing them all pretty lousily. So what I would do is whatever your strength is, if your strength is production, do that and hire the other ones. And if your strength is sales, do that and hire for the other ones.
Okay.
No need working on your weaknesses.
That's what we call the BFO, right? Have you heard of this one? The blinding flash of the obvious.
That's right.
But it's something you don't think about, but it's completely logical.
Well, because if you don't like doing a certain part of your business, you're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And and then we're back where we started. Then you have half effort, and it doesn't produce half results. It produces none of it.
And we've come full circle there.
Look at that.
So Dan, Mr. Jourdan, thanks for being on the show one more time. How would folks get in touch with you? Website, phone number, you give a home address or email, social security number.
Just go to my website and you'll find out everything about my life if you're interested. dan-jourdan.com. Dan, JOURDAN.com. You got my cell phone number. You got my, sign on to the newsletter and rock and roll. And if you need a job, I'm your man. Let's talk.
Well said.
Awesome.
Dan, thanks for being here once again. Thanks for joining us on the Buckhead Business Show.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association.